So I just wanted to welcome you all at this beautiful Sunday afternoon. Huh? I feel that we define who we are by the choices we make in life. And for you being here on this beautiful Sunday afternoon, that we could have been on the beach, having barbecue with friends, doing something else. You have chosen to be here to support human rights. It is heartwarming for me, especially when we look at the globe and what is going on in every corner of the world. Oh, we really need gatherings like this and making a difference. It really gives me hope for humanity. Thank you. Thank you for being here and making that choice. I was asked to talk about some clinical symptoms of abuse, focusing on women. And we, of course, will do that. So the basic question is that what is likely to happen to the psyche when girls are born into a value system, a thought structure, a family, religion, or culture, or for whatever reason, that they assume shame when a girl is born? What is likely to happen to the psyche of the child growing up in that system? I was wondering how many people may have seen by any chance the Iranian movie The Circle. Has anyone seen that? Let me share the opening of this movie with you, which I think is a really it's really well done. The scene is that a woman is pacing back and forth, waiting for her daughter to have her baby. In the background, we can hear a woman screaming in labor, and then after a while, it's quiet, and a nurse staff will open a little window and bring her head and says, "Congratulations, it's a girl." And the grandmother goes, "I don't want to be the one to tell my son-in-law that he has a daughter. I can't do that." She's terrified and runs away. And of course, The Circle is different women, different situations, different scenarios, but basically the same core, shame. So what happens? What is likely to happen to the child being born into a system that repeatedly, consistently, frequently is receiving this message that you are not wanted, you are not loved, you are not worthy, you shouldn't even be here, you don't deserve to be here. So I would like to take a brief journey. We're going to have 30 minutes together. From a child's point of view, as what happens entering the world and having such a wonderful welcome. I don't know if you have seen on TV or Animal Planet kind of a show, when other mammals have a baby, the baby is on its feet within a few minutes. I just recently saw one on a giraffe being born in Memphis Zoo. Has anyone seen that? Yes. It's on YouTube. It's very interesting. And within a few minutes, the giraffe is walking, wobbling, And mom is trying to encourage the baby to take the first steps. Now imagine and look at human babies. Imagine this precious being, and this is a state of life, that the baby is most dependable, most vulnerable, most impressionable, and has no defense. The baby, human baby, requires 24/7 care for many years before they develop some independence. This is a critical stage of life. Human children, babies don't survive if they are not taken care of. And parents are the ones who are to love the children, make them feel valued, make them feel safe, make them feel like there is happiness with them coming. So when children are neglected, abused verbally, emotionally, physically, sexually, psychologically, and spiritually, it's likely to impact the soul by the primary caregivers. So I'm inviting you to look at from the child view, a young girl, and here are the patterns, the adults, that she depends on her survival on these adults, primary caregivers. So from a child's point of view, these adults are the ultimate authority in her life. She depends on them. And they are like godlike for a young child. So imagine, like from a 3-4-year-old child, looking at his parents who are abusive. What are the choices? What does the girl can do? Can she say like, Mom, Dad, I think you're pretty dysfunctional. You don't seem to have much like effective parenting skill. Maybe I will just go and live with the Joneses. Could children do that? The children are likely to stay and cope the best they can. There is a phenomenon called learned helplessness. And in order to study this phenomenon, scientists have come in laboratory setting where they can completely control the environmental factors and manipulate and study this scientifically. What they have done was to bring a group of monkeys and put them in an apparatus, like a glass apparatus, that they are pretty confined. They can't move, but they can move their hands. And they are going to apply electric shocks to their tail that is very painful. So when they have these monkeys, there is the experimental group. The monkeys in this group, they have a lever. And if they push the lever, they can prevent the electric shock. Even though they are still very confined, but there's something they can do if they push the lever. The monkeys in the control group, no matter what they do, they're going to get the shock. Nothing is going to stop that. So when they start giving the electric shock to the monkeys, they are in pain. And of course, they're going to try everything in their environment, whatever they can, to do something to stop the pain. So in the experimental group, when the monkeys find the lever and find out that if they push the lever, it's going to prevent the electric shock, they're going to push the lever as frequently as they can. But for the control group, they do the same thing. They try everything in their environment also. But nothing happens. The electric shock, painful, keeps coming. So there is an invisible point that the monkeys give up. They won't try it anymore. They accept that they are helpless in that situation. Now, if the experimental changes and say, okay, now if the monkeys push the lever, they're going to prevent the shot, what's going to happen? The monkeys won't try again. And this is something that happens to a lot of children being in a situation that they have no control. And the abuse is consistently present. So, someone might say like, as a result of this situation, what would be the common symptoms of children growing up in that system? Well, low self-esteem, low self-confidence, low self-image, a feeling that I'm not good enough, that I'm not good at all, I don't even deserve to be here, feeling of shame, feeling of guilt, feelings of inadequacy, I can't do anything right, I'm incapable, feelings of insecurity, feelings of helplessness, hopelessness, powerlessness, and anxiety, panic attack, and symptoms of what is called PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and of course depression that is all over the place. And that's when possibly self-destructive behavior manifests. And I have had female clients, survivor of sexual abuse, that have been cutting their body all over the place. That makes me cringe, just thinking about it. And that is sometimes when the thoughts of suicide emerges, that life experience becomes so unbearable that the thought of suicide becomes a way out to end the suffering. Do you know that just in Iran, over 300 women a year put gasoline on themselves and set themselves on fire? Can you imagine that life becomes so unbearable that choosing such a violent, painful death is a choice to end the misery? Can you imagine that? You know, from an external perspective, someone might say, why doesn't she leave? That's pretty final. That's pretty painful. There must be other alternative. How come she chooses that? Is that a choice? It's hard to understand that, isn't it? There seems to be a critical, defining moment that in relation to our life experiences, it seems that we form a core value about who we are. And once that core belief is formed, it seems like unconsciously we develop a story that kind of about our life and how our path in life is going to be. Some people call this a script, some people call this a story, some people call it a narrative. So you can imagine if a girl is born into that level of shame, I'm not wanted, I have no value, I don't even deserve to be here. When that is the core belief, you can imagine that possibly that story is going to be very much based on that core belief that my life is going to be full of pain, and basically interpreting the events in life according to that story. And this is pretty unconscious. Do you believe that right now in Afghanistan there is the belief that a woman cannot leave home without a man? And this man is a father, a husband, a brother, or a son. And if those men, for whatever reason, they are killed in wars, they are lost, gone, captured, whatever, if they are not present, the woman will not leave the home. There are children and women who die of hunger, but do not leave the home. Again, someone might say, they are dying. Why don't they leave the home? What happens if they leave the home? Why don't they? It's hard to understand. So when that core belief, remember the monkeys? Won't try again. When that is set, it's very difficult. So I would like to share a personal story and invite you to maybe explore your story. This is not about women in other places. This is my personal experience. My father was an army officer when I was growing up, and he was offered 2 years training in Sweden. And then, at that time, going to Europe was such a huge thing. And imagine that the government is going to pay for 2 years for a person to go. So it was like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So my parents went to Sweden and left me with my maternal grandmother. I grew up with this feeling inside, like a feeling of void, like something was missing. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was called. It took me many, many years in therapy to become aware of this and learning that I had developed a story about that event that was just simply my story and creating it. The story that I had developed was that my parents left me. If they left me, it meant they abandoned me. If my parents abandoned me, I thought that meant they didn't love me. And if my parents didn't love me, maybe there was something wrong with me, not lovable. And this was all story, creation. It wasn't true. But and I was in psychology, studying psychology. So I wonder, how many of us walk through life making these stories based on life experiences and impact us. So I'm hoping that with the healing process, and we can heal and we can become whole and complete and be peaceful. It is possible, but it's a lot of work. But the main question for me as a woman is that how come women have been so mistreated throughout the years, generations and generations? From the time that baby girls were buried alive, from child slavery, child prostitution, and child brides, which is pretty much the same. with a ceremony, with families being involved. I came across this National Geographic article about the phenomena of child brides. And I would like to share a few of these photos with you. What do you think might be the youngest age to give a girl to be a bride? 9? That might be with the 8.
I had
8. Okay. Any other one? 4? Tell me where you're at that 4.
There was actually an internet article just 2 days ago about how the parents, the two families gave the children to each other at the age of 4 and committed the marriage, accepted money on one hand and the marriage on the other. And the gal just got it annulled. I think it was Pakistan. I'm thinking it might be Pakistan.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'd like to share this photo with you. I don't know if you can see it in the back. This is in India. It's a 5-year-old girl. And because it's illegal, they do perform these ceremonies in the middle of the night. This is an uncle that woke up the little girl to take her to her wedding. Can you imagine a 5-year-old?
How old is he now?
Pardon me?
How old is he? If she is 5.
How old is the
The
man?
man, her husband.
Good, very good question. Let me show you another picture. What she was talking about was that when they promise 2 children to one another, like the families make that contract, they don't get married then. However, I'd like you to see this picture. The little girl here was 6 years old and was given to a man who's 25. Can you imagine that a child at that age is not developed for marriage intimacy? And a lot of these girls are severely damaged. And sometimes when they get pregnant, their body is not developed to have childbirth. And many of them die during the childbirth. I don't know if you can see or not, but the gentlemen in these photos are wearing a weapon. Can you see it? It's like a dagger, yes. It kind of gives me the feeling like if you don't behave, these pictures are really interesting. If anyone is interested, this is June 2011. This is a 14-year-old who has already 2 children. And it says in the article that she's still bleeding from childbirth and no access to health care. This one, if you can see, they are taking the bride to the wedding and she is sobbing. And if you can see the photos around her, the other girls, she is crying, but it's like that's what you gotta do. This is another photo that the husband had stabbed the woman, and this is like many times that these things happen. We need to stop. But I'd like to end by saying that we can really heal from these. That a lot of good things happen with healing process. And I wanted to close by a quotation that I heard on Dr. Wayne Dyer's presentation, that circumstances do not make the man, they reveal him. And I like to put person instead of the man. And that's true. They are amazing, amazing women. If anyone is interested, this is a book called The Most 100 Influential Women, women who have made history and created changes, life-altering. And to close, I would like you to join in honor of all the people who gave their life to support human life. Just a few seconds, please. Thank you very much. Maybe if there is any reflection, any comments, anything like that, I would love to explore it with you. But don't expect any answer from me. Yes?
I just have a quick question on the title of that book that you showed. What is it, The 100 Influential Women?
The 100 most influential women of all times. Of course, this book was published here, and in terms of diversity, it doesn't have as many. There are maybe one person from China, one person from India, very few, but definitely women who have made a difference. And I've been reading it, and it's just heartwarming to know where women came from and how they made a difference. Thank you for asking that. Yes, ma'am.
I was born and raised in the South, so there is a strong mentality there there's a strong mentality of the male hegemony. And I'm studying right now Michel Foucault and his Truth and Power, and I wonder if in your work over the last few years, if you've seen any type of transition in the American society to get away from the male dominance and move toward a more equalized society for women.
That's a wonderful question. I worked for a long time in the county system, and that was providing services to the most disadvantaged members of our community. And in doing that, it was really heart-wrenching at times that what women in our community are experiencing. You know, I had young women who had been gang raped, insisted by family members, and you probably know in a lot of cultures, when a girl is incested within the family and she gets pregnant, what do?
They kill her. They kill her?
They kill her? Yes. It's like you brought shame
Shame.
to the family. Like she got pregnant by herself
Responsible.
at 12 or 13. The honor killing, you know, what, so, you know, my heart is that do we have any ideas? Maybe that could be a topic for another seminar. How come women are mistreated across culture everywhere, south, north, it may have a different flavor. And how can we prevent it? How can we empower women to be the goddesses, as we all are, to feel empowered, to have a voice, to feel worthy, and to feel okay inside? Virginia Satir was a family therapist that had a beautiful quotation. She said, "I am me, and I am okay." And I think that is the core value. If human beings, this is not just about women. I mean, look at what's happening all over the place. The core value of feeling worthy as we are meant to be happy and to experience inner peace. That's what all human beings want. But look around, and how many peaceful people do you see? Maybe we have to go to a monastery to see one. So thank you very much for asking that question. Any other questions? Yes?
In your clinical experience, what's been
Monica, and she's also a psychologist. The next generation. Thank you for asking that question. Sometimes the most difficult, heart-wrenching, is that when women are in a situation that they feel there are no choices for treatment or healing, or that core belief that there is nothing I can do. It is what it is. That I am brought to this world to suffer. I'm staying with that because I cannot change another person's thought process. But creating a safe and trusting and nurturing environment in the therapy setting that the person might start to begin safe and maybe a little bit opening of hope that it could be different. And of course, these women have so many symptoms all over the place, especially with trauma. They are easily angry, easily agitated. It's difficult to be around them. And to relieve the symptoms, of course, is really important. There are women who wake up in the middle of the night with trauma and nightmare, cannot get any sleep, wake up in the morning, and every hour of life is painful. So bringing the symptoms down to a point that maybe might be an opening of healing. And it's a long process. There is no quick fixes, and there is no magic wand. There is no delete button like the computer that we can delete it. But healing is available and it's possible. And thank God there is a lot available for women. So I'm very hopeful, and even though it's been many years I'm doing this, I feel every client that comes into my path is a teacher, and we grow together. There is nothing they can say that I haven't felt or experienced. So to me, it's a calling in life, and I feel very honored when I have the opportunity to be part of the healing of someone else's, another woman, another goddess. Thank you for asking that. Thank you very much.